Yeah, I think, Rob was talking about earlier how, the time in the jails is just so great. I mean, it really is the highlight of my week. And every time I get home, Lisa's like, how was it? I'm like, oh, this one was the best. And it just, you know, I think lately I've been seeing a contrast with certain things I do that are just like ministry tasks or things we're pursuing or trying to do. And then there's other things that you feel like, okay, God is, this is a God thing. He's pushing something and I'm just caught in the middle of it. But it's just this idea that I think there's certain things we do in ministry that are good, they're fine. But then there's other times when you really sense like God's calling me into something. And I guess I've been feeling that more lately, which shows me that, wow, I think there's been a season of me just doing stuff, just trying to be faithful, but not necessarily feeling like a supernatural thing. So, like for example, today we're reading in Joshua, not San Francisco, but the rest of We Are Church globally. We're in Joshua, and we're talking about you're reading about Rahab, and the spies going to her, and she's like, okay, yes, I'm going to hide you guys because we all know what your God's about to do. And then today was more the Gibeonites and them having to fake like, oh, just have pity on us. And then Joshua asked like, why'd you do that? And he's like, no, ever since Moses we knew your God, so we had to do something out of desperation. And it's like, okay, this is our God, and you can lose sight, and you don't want to be that person that doesn't have faith in those things. I showed you that the screenshot of the guy whose cancer was healed, but it's interesting because I talked to him on the phone, and because he was like, I didn't know if you'd remember me. I go, of course I remember you. He goes, but you remember that time you called me on stage? I go, no. And he says, because he's a big guy, he's kind of like a bodybuilder guy, and he goes, yeah, you had like a 40 or 50-pound dumbbell, and you said, how many of you guys? And you asked me, do you think you could curl this thing 20 times? And I looked down, I'm like, yeah, I can do it 20 times. And we asked the crowd, like, how many of you think he can do it 20 times? And it's decent weight, so it was kind of split, and but so then he does it. He does his 20 reps. And I said something along the line of, okay, now I got another dumbbell here and it's 10 pounds. How many of you think he could do that 20 times? And, it was kind of like this rhetorical, stupid question. And the whole point was, okay, if we believe that God spoke the world into existence, that's a pretty heavy lift. If we believe he raised the dead, and we're like, yeah, no, I believe that. But then some of our addictions, some of our, problems today, we just see it as like, that's impossible. That no way, cancer, no, like we just don't want to be people like that. That if God is behind something. And so this whole project we're in with just really believing that God wants unity at the communion table. Like like how big of a lift do we really think that is for God? And if God is behind this, we have to stop thinking like mere humans. And I mean, this was Christ's prayer. If I want to believe in my prayers, I got to at least believe in Jesus's prayers, that he was praying according to the will of Jesus, and he's praying for this oneness in the church, and you see these moves, with the thing that you made with how we got here, and these schisms that took place, in 31 and 4:51, and how, wow, suddenly they're lifting these anathemas that are 1,500 years old. They still won't come to the table together, but that's a big deal to say, hey, I think we were wrong 1,500 years ago, and we're still kind of saying, we were kind of saying the same thing. You know, the difference between the hypostatic union and the prosopic union, I think we're kind of saying the same thing. We shouldn't have split up and had two communion tables 1,500 years ago. So we agree on that, but let's still not be at the same table. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay, but at least there's movement. That's crazy to lift something that's 1,500 years old. And then to look at Vatican II and the lifting of anathemas between the Orthodox and the Catholic Church. Like, wow, you guys said you're anathema and you're excommunicated and your communion's not valid. Your communion's not valid. Now 1,000 years later, you're rethinking that. And then just what happened with the speaking of the Nicene Creed, by the Pope and, and the leader of the Orthodox Church, that was just less than a year ago. Like, these are 1,000-year-old, divisions that you'd go, oh, that can't happen. You can't fix that. And it's like, no, that can be fixed. And then I guess that's what I felt in Nashville, was like, gosh, this doesn't feel like something we're trying to do. But it feels very much like there's a wind behind this, and I'm just kind of going with the flow and just kind of moving where it doesn't feel like I'm forcing something. And there are times in life, in ministry, where I feel like I'm forcing something or trying to make something happen, which I don't think there's wrong in that. I think that's just part of the process. I think that's part of what you see in the book of Acts. So I was headed this way and the Spirit stopped me. It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with you heading that way. You're just trying to do something for the Lord. Very much like when David was going to build the temple. And then I love that passage. I think it's 2 Chronicles 4 verses 7 and 8, or 6 verses 7 and 8, where Solomon says, it was in my father's heart to build this temple, and God told him, it was good that was in your heart. Nevertheless, it's not you that's going to do it, but your son Solomon. And so I think there'll be moments in our life where we're doing things that it was good that it was in your heart, that I thought I was going to do this, and and God says, nevertheless, that's not the way it's going to go. But Solomon's going to do it. And so then there's this blessing upon Solomon. And I guess I'm feeling some of those things, with the recording and the songs and just the relationships and the conversations. And I just don't want us to lose faith in those things, because maybe sometimes we try to do things and it's not necessarily bad. It's probably a good thing that was in your heart and you pursued it, but you didn't sense the breath of God being behind you, and that's okay. It's not, I screwed up, but it's the Lord saying it's good that was in your heart. Nonetheless, it's not the plan for you right now. But then every once in a while you get into something where you're going, okay, this is weird. This is a lot of good stuff kind of heading this way. And I think one of the things, I forgot who said it. It was during the time in Nashville. They were quoting this other songwriter friend of ours, and I don't know if I got the person right, so I won't even say his name, but he says, I always try to position myself so that the wind of God is at my back. You just try to sense, where's God going, and then, okay, this is verses in my face. And again, the in my face doesn't necessarily mean you're in sin and he's blocking it. It's just more, and that's not really it, but that's good that you're pursuing this. And so just been thanking God for feeling like there's more and more things that I'm not pushing. It's just kind of happening. And just to look in your life and believe for those things, because we don't ever want to lack faith and just go to that human, here's what's reasonable, here's what's possible. But to look at the scriptures and go, wow, if he did that, that's like that 50-pound lift. Really comparatively, I'm looking at a 10-pound thing. And so, of course, he can. And so now it's like, Lord, is the wind at my back? And am I seeing these things? And if so, that's exciting. And it's not always like this, it becomes this big movement. Because when I was in Asia, there were times when I just thought, gosh, we're just trying to force something here. I mean, it's fine. It's good, technically. But do I go, oh, that was awesome. That was a move of God. Some people will say that about anything. But sometimes it's just more like the realism is like, not everything is awesome. And you don't have to say it's a move of God. You can just go, oh, that's good. And then there were other things that weren't necessarily big. For example, it was great being in the Philistines, with the Philistines in the Philippines. And I was with Billy and Sharon, and they're just caring for, like 20 street kids. And been faithfully doing this for years. I think Sharon's been like 20-something years doing this. And you just go, gosh, this is beautiful. And it's of the Lord and their hearts. And it's just sweet. Now, is it this giant movement? No. You're just faithful to these people. And then when I was in Korea, I was just with a small group of leaders. And you just sense the presence of God with us. And yes, God's doing big things through them, but it wasn't that. It was the community. It was the love. It was the, gosh, soak this in. This is beautiful. I'm just in the presence of God with you guys, and we're all feeling it. And that's what I felt in the jail cell yesterday with it was a smaller group, and it was all in Spanish, so, I can only say so much, but it just, I don't have time to talk about all the things that happened there, but it was like, God's with us. This is so cool. This is so great. Thank you, Lord. I'm so enjoying this. And just times with the Lord doesn't have to be a massive thing, but I think it's just important that we don't have to exaggerate things. And you don't have to feel like you've got to, what's that opposite of exaggerate? Desaturate things. Minimize. Oh, that's good. Downplay. Paul got it before you. Downplay. Good. Still no word. So, anyways, I'm excited. The one thing I do tell people when I go speak to leaders or whatever else, it's like, I don't want to minimize what God's done in my life too. Because, okay, I'm not the most intelligent leader. I'm not just the best leader. I'm not but I still got a lot of faith, and I'm still excited about things. And I still believe the best is yet to come. And I still it doesn't mean I'm going to speak to bigger crowds, because I'm not even really wanting that. I don't want that personally. But I'm excited about every little gathering I get in. Like, anything could happen right now, you guys. This is crazy. This is awesome. Like, just that I still feel that, I just go, wow, that's really cool. I just want to thank God for that. That's a grace of something he puts in you, where you still have this zeal and this childlike wonder. And I do. And I believe that's something God did in my life, and I'm thankful for that. And I believe there's a wind in that. And that was just my heart. Like when I was with the Korean group, there was just like, gosh, you guys are really cranking along, but I really love you guys, and I don't want you to lose this fire, because here's ways that the enemy, I've seen so many people lose that wonder and that excitement, and I still have it. And I'm even grateful. I said, you get to an age where you're just grateful even for the hard times. You know, it's like you start realizing, oh, I'm grateful for that conflict, because I made it through it and I'm stronger now. And I know more conflict's about to come, especially as we pursue unity. It's going to get a lot thicker, and go, okay, God, that's cool that I get to suffer some of this rejection for you. Like, it's like, oh, I'm finally there. Now, when we're in the middle of it, I might not feel that way completely, but by the grace of God, I'll rebound and I'll be fine. But it was cool just to love on people like that and look at young leaders and go, oh, God, protect them. Keep them excited when they're 60. Keep them still in wonder and believing in these things. And, you know, same for you guys. Just remember the things that God's done that were the 50-pound lift. And go, gosh, this things I'm doubting for, that's really dumb to doubt that guy could do curls with 10 pounds. Yeah, it's just fun. It's still fun. It's still exciting. I'm still believing for anything. So,
I have a question.
yes.
How do you discern, like for people who are like in ministry and they're like, I don't feel the wind of God against my back, but I also don't feel like God opposing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ministry is like not easy. It's a struggle. I haven't seen much fruit, and I just have these 20 street kids, or I have this like small little house church where I have this like tiny little thing. How do you know when to like just say, all right, I'm like, this is probably not it and I need to fold it, or like, no, this is something that I need to continue to struggle in and press on, even though I don't have any sense from the Lord, like shut it down or whatever, and you're just kind of like there, you know? Like, how do you?
Yeah, it's good. That's good. First, I would say that's the beauty of spiritual authority and being under leaders. I was talking to a young buck last night that was over for dinner. But, you know, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. And I was like, okay, well, let's walk through the last 3 years of your life. You know, it's this, then this, and this, and this. And then you're feeling like, oh, I'm not rooted. And I said, well, you know, and this next thing that you're thinking about, let's just be careful, because your generation is very much about like, this, you know, I'm going to go by faith to this place. And it takes a lot more faith nowadays to be consistent and to work a job and get good at it and actually develop a skill and become this useful part of the body. It's hard to love people consistently. And I said, you know, even my own example, you know, people go, gosh, yeah, I want to be like Francis. He just like knew God was calling him and he just left. And I'm like, well, that was 16 and a half years at Cornerstone. And now I've been about 16 years and doing house church. It's not like every month it's like, whoa, where's God calling me? And it's not, I don't want people to look at that and go, oh yeah, let's just go wherever the wind blows, in the sense. There is a sense of you don't know where the Spirit's moving, this or that, but you know, if I could go back again and redo anything, it would be just a stronger commitment to submission to authority and loving authority. And I was always, I feel like I was pretty good, even as a young man, at obeying orders and coming under leadership. And so that's a big part of the Christian life. In fact, that's where as we're reading 1 Corinthians 12, which you guys aren't because you didn't come under that leadership. But as I look at the 1 Corinthians 12 this time through, like there was a thing in which like the different gifts, I never noticed, maybe I've noticed and I just re-noticed, where he says that God orchestrates so that there would be no division in the body. There was a way in which, like, I'm not going to give this person I'm not going to gift Ray with everything. If he's a liver, that's it. So that he doesn't just run off and say, I got it, you're going to notice pretty soon, wow, a liver by itself is ridiculous. He orchestrate. You're going to figure it out sooner or later. And so there's something about that. And I say this in the macro level because I go, gosh, there is something awesome about the Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church, as far as authority. That we're not great at, because with the releasing of all the gifts and everyone sharing their thoughts and their gifting, there comes this sense of my opinion's just as important as yours. And so we're always running into, at We Are Church, people that just feel like their opinion's so great, and I don't come under the opinions of the authority because I'm equal to them. Even though they wouldn't say that, eventually it becomes, hey, I have different ideas than you guys. And we tend to attract those people. And so it's like, well, I sat down and heard from the Lord that I'm supposed to do that. It's like, well, how do you argue with that? And so I would say, seek some spiritual authority first and foremost. That is God protecting you and leading you through that. And sometimes this generation where we have so many options, if I can just go off by myself, we tend to do that. But that's where I think I have this longing of like, gosh, I want to be under leadership. I don't want to just create my own thing. And that's where I'm meeting some of these priests and going, I need you, versus you go do your thing, we don't need you. But I'm like, gosh, we need some of what they carry. But we can run quickly to, okay, but then that means that. I go, I get it. It's not easy, but I need some of what they do. I have no problem saying that. And that's what they're saying coming this way. It's like, oh, we so need what these guys are doing. And so when we're determining the will of God, I would just say, let's be very careful of not to just have this individualistic American, I'm going to go forge my way, because that's really what we lift up often. And there needs to be more of an uplifting of authority and going, yeah, I don't think I... And that's what I've, really loved about my children. It's just, I give them their autonomy. You do what you want to do to a degree, but there's certain times it's like, no, that's not going to happen. But for the most part, it's like, hey, go do this thing. But they've been very, very submissive, very much like trusting. And that's why, I think about Zeke and Ellie right now, and him wanting counsel of, hey, what do you think I should do on this? And it's like, I think you should stay. I think you should work. I think you should do this. And it's, it's just like, okay, I think you're right. I think I'm going to do that. But he doesn't just seek the Lord on his own. And so then with Ellie, with business and school, I'll just say, hey, here's the two options. Here's some things you can do. I think you're going to learn more here, but this is good too. But it's just more of that posture of, okay, I'm trying to make some decisions. So help me out on that. Versus I'm just going to sit in a room by myself and then whatever I get, I get. And it's good. It's good, but I know not everyone has that authority in the home. And I certainly didn't. And so a lot of it was just like, oh God, what are you leading me to? But when you have that authority over you and you have sought that covering and God's blessed you with covering, then seek that, pursue that, and discern the will of God that way.